Aquaman is the latest film in the DCEU, or the DC Extended Universe. It is the first DC film that we've had this year, and the first one we've had since Wonder Woman. It's the first official one we've had since Wonder Woman. That's right, over a year later, and it still hurts. I have not let it go. I've moved on, but I haven't let it go. There's a difference. This film is directed by James Wan. You might remember him from other horror movies back in the day that he has either directed or produced on, like the Conjuring films, or maybe the Insidious films, or films like that. The film stars Jason Momoa reprising his role as the Aquaman. You have seen him show up in other films in the DC universe. Amber Heard stars as Mera. She also had a cameo appearance in that Justice League movie that came out over a year ago. You've got Willem Dafoe as Volko, Patrick Wilson as the main villain in the movie Orm, aka Ocean Master. There's another actor whose name I can't really pronounce. It starts with a Y, but he plays Black Manta. And so I'm sorry I can't remember your name, buddy. This movie takes place a little bit of time after Justice League. Aquaman is now known around the world, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman is pretty cool. He goes around the world, he does these little odd jobs that only Aquaman can do. Unfortunately, his brother Orm, played by Patrick Wilson, has been declared King of Atlantis, and he, in turn, declares war on the surface world because of a whole bunch of different reasons. So Mera goes to find Arthur, and together they team up on this journey that has them searching for this magical artifact that could turn the tides of the war and reclaim the throne for Arthur. Along the way, Arthur has to figure out not only can he be king, but does he even want to be king of Atlantis? It's kind of a journey of self-discovery for him too. I'm gonna level with you guys. I have been a diehard DC fan since I was a kid. You guys know that, but I'm not really an Aquaman fan, if I'm being honest. Not that I hate Aquaman or anything like that. I've just been indifferent about him for most of his existence. I respect him and his place in the DC lore. I've read a few of his stories. His stories are actually pretty cool. But just like most people, I kind of considered Aquaman the joke, and I made jokes about him, and just, I feel ashamed now, because I've seen the movie of Aquaman now. I don't think we're going to be making Aquaman jokes anytime soon. Why? Because this movie was badass in so many ways. I had a blast watching Aquaman. The visuals of this movie are just, oh my god, it's insane. It's insane what James Wan and the rest of the camera people and the visual effects artists were able to do with this movie. Visually speaking, this is one of the best looking comic book films of 2018. In fact, forget that. When you consider the iconography and the camera work and the locations and everything about this movie from a CGI standpoint, it actually stands among the GOATs in comic book movie history in terms of how it looks. That's right, this whole movie isn't even eggs on a tit. It is full-blown omelet titties, and I am here for all of it. The movie has tremendous color grading, excellent lighting, it has great attention to detail when it comes to building its world. I'm just saying, from a visual standpoint, this film has absolutely no pull-out game. You watch this movie and your eyes immediately get impregnated by the beauty of 1,000 oceans. Holy shit, that quote was actually kind of badass. I just thought of it right here on the spot. Hey, Warner Brothers, you can use that for the Blu-ray in the future if you want. When it comes to the actors and the characters, I feel like almost everybody brings their A game. Jason Momoa is Aquaman. He does such a great job in this role. This guy definitely comes across as the ultimate badass, the ultimate bruiser. He also has really good charm and really good charisma for a role like this. Like I said in the beginning, after 2018, after you've seen this movie, after you've seen Jason Momoa in this role, I just feel like the Aquaman jokes are officially dead now. His relationship with Mera was also a highlight of the film. Their banter and their chemistry back and forth was actually a lot of fun to watch. Amber Heard as Mera. Not only is she fine as hell to the point that her farts probably smell like freshly grilled tilapia, as a character, she's a total badass. She's a really strong female character. She's not here to be a token damsel in distress. In fact, she spends a lot of this movie actually looking out for Arthur and saving Arthur's ass. So really, you should be giving Mera her props. Call her queen after this movie. The villains in the movie also are handled really well. Patrick Wilson, I feel like, is an underrated actor, and I feel like he did a really great job with Orm. He's one of those villains that you do understand his motivation. You do understand why he feels the way he feels. And if it weren't for the fact that he were a complete dick and an asshole, you might actually go, you know what? I might actually side with you. It's kind of like Shane from The Walking Dead. Shane actually made a lot of sense, but it was the way he presented it, the way he executed that made Shane like, you know, an evil, crazy bastard. Patrick Wilson did a great job at selling the emotion and the motivations of Ocean Master, aka Orm. And I also like the way they incorporated Black Manta into this movie. Manta, just like a lot of images from this movie, is ripped right out of the pages of the comics. He is a badass. He definitely has some really brutal scenes, some great action sequences. Speaking of the action sequences in this film, I feel like most of them, if not all of them, will rank among the best in comic book history when it's all said and done. When it comes to the films that we have seen, we have been spoiled. We have grown up in an age where we've seen a lot of really epic comic book film action sequences. Aquaman's damn near take a lot of the top 5 spots. In terms of where it fits in the larger DC universe, it definitely is trying to tell its own story, even though it references the events of Justice League. And visually speaking, and thematically at times, there are some parallels to previous DC films. Most of the time, it reminds me of Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. This movie kind of feels like a swashbuckling adventure type of movie, kind of like Indiana Jones, or maybe the Uncharted games, or Pirates of the Caribbean. But aesthetically and visually, it feels like Avatar Avatar or Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. And if you like that combination, I feel like you're gonna dig this movie. Having said that, just because I dug the movie, just because it was a complete blast, doesn't mean that it is a flawless movie, because we all know there's no such thing. Most of the problems I had with this movie are confined to like the second act of the film. From a tone standpoint, it just felt like it was a little bit all over the place, and it didn't really vibe with the first and the third acts of the film. There's some moments of humor that don't really work for me, that feel a little bit out of place, some of which feel like they didn't need to be there and they were just kind of thrown in there because we want to make it a little bit more accessible, a little bit more fun, and it kind of took away from some of the moments there. Also, some really weird music choices that were thrown into the movie that really took me out of the movie, that I just don't understand why they were put there in that scene for that purpose. Musical score in general was pretty damn good, but some of these musical choices, like soundtrack choices, where I'm just kind of like, why is this happening? It just doesn't really fit with the vibe and the flow of the rest of the movie. From a story standpoint, there are some areas where I feel like they could have fleshed some things out a little bit more. They could have tightened things up. There's definitely a direction they take the story towards the end of the second act that turns into kind of a twist that feels kind of like an unnecessary twist for the movie as a whole. I can't really get into the story-related issues in terms of the twist and what it did for the movie because it would be a spoiler, and this is not a spoiler video. And against my better judgment, I am going to give Aquaman the highest rating my channel can offer, Superman Prime. It makes me have a better appreciation and understanding of Aquaman, and it definitely makes me want to go back to Atlantis and see him again. Guys, those are my thoughts on Aquaman. Stay tuned. I will have a recap and review of the latest episode of Titans, probably up sometime tomorrow. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.